The broken island. The Roman roads still cut through the heart of Britain, straight, defiant, and silent. But where once legions marched in perfect order, now only the wind travels. The eagle standards have fallen. The villas stand roofless, ivy clawing over mosaics of forgotten gods. Britain, once the western outpost of empire, has become a ghost abandoned by Rome and left to fend for itself. The year is around 410 AD, and the island is unraveling. No emperor will send aid. The walls crumble, and from the mist of the north and the sea beyond, shadows move. The people who remain, the Britons, are trapped between worlds. Their Latin prayers mingle with ancient Celtic tongues. Their leaders, once proud magistrates, now call themselves kings, warlords, defenders of their small patches of earth. They look east, across the grey waters, where the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes stir in restless hunger. These newcomers are invited first as mercenaries, fierce men, hired to defend the land against raiders. But soon, the protectors become conquerors, and like wildfire, their presence spreads across the island. By the mid-5th century, Britain is no longer Roman, yet not quite Saxon either. The old gods are whispering again. Woden, Tuno, Tidia. The Christian churches built on the Roman peace are plundered, their bells silenced, villages burn, valleys once peaceful echo with the clash of iron and the screams of flight. The land itself seems to groan under the weight of collapse. From Kent to Yorkshire, whole communities vanish. But even in the wreckage, the seeds of something new are being sown. For chaos, in history, is never the end. It is the forge of transformation. In the West, legends begin to take shape. A leader, perhaps real, perhaps myth, rises to resist the tide. The stories will call him Arthur. Whether a single man or many, he becomes the symbol of what Britain once was: proud, brave, unwilling to yield. But even legend cannot stop the tide forever. The newcomers are relentless, bringing their own tongue, their own law, their own bloodlines. They build halls on sacred hills and name the land in their own image. England, the land of the Angles. By the dawn of the 7th century, what was once a single Roman province has shattered into fragments, 7 rising powers, each claiming the right to rule the whole. The Britons are pushed to the edges, to the mountains of Wales, the rugged lands of Cornwall, and the wild north beyond Hadrian's Wall. The age of Rome has ended, and in its ashes, a new story begins. It is a tale of warriors and saints, of vengeance and vision. The island is broken, yes, but its pieces are beginning to move again, like shards gathering into a crown. Because in this fractured land, where faith meets steel and blood becomes destiny, the 7 kingdoms of England are about to be born. Blood and faith, the rise of the 7 thrones. From the ashes of Rome's ruin, the 7 thrones rose 7 realms, forged by ambition, fear, and the relentless will to survive. They were the Heptarchy, Northumbria, Mercia, Wessex, East Anglia, Essex, Sussex, and Kent. Each was a world unto itself, with its own kings, gods, and destinies. Together, they were England, before England, divided, yet intertwined, like 7 flames flickering in the same storm. In Kent, the first light of order glimmered again. There ruled Æthelberht, a king, who looked both east to Frankish power and upward to the heavens. His queen, Bertha, was Christian, and through her came the missionaries led by Augustine of Rome, sent by Pope Gregory in 597 AD. When Augustine's feet touched Kentish soil, he brought with him more than faith. He carried the idea of civilization reborn. Æthelberht's conversion set a precedent that would echo through the island, that kings could rule not just with the sword, but with divine sanction. The pagan gods began to tremble, but not all kings bowed to the cross so easily. In the north, where the wind howled across wild moors, and the rivers ran deep with ire and memory, Northumbria rose proud and warlike. Here reigned Edwin, then Oswald, and later Oswy rulers whose sagas blended piety with bloodshed. Monasteries like Lindisfarne shone as beacons of learning and faith, while warlords beyond their walls still called upon Odin and Thor before battle. Christianity did not sweep the land overnight. It mingled with the old ways, each belief shaping the other. The cross and the hammer walked side by side for generations. To the west, Mercia grew restless and ambitious, a kingdom of strength and shadow. Its kings, like Penda and Offa, sought dominion over all. Penda, the last great pagan king, defied both cross and crown, carving a realm from sheer will. His wars bathed the island in blood, but his defiance ensured that England's soul would never be simple. Offa, a century later, built a dike that still scars the earth, a monument not just of defense, but of pride. To Mercia, unity meant conquest. And then, in the south, Wessex began to rise quietly, steadily, like the tide. Its kings, descended from Cerdic the Saxon, would one day shape the very idea of England. But for now, they were just another power among seven, learning the art of survival in a world that rewarded cunning as much as courage. The island was a tapestry woven from both holiness and horror. Priests copied gospels in candlelight, while armies burned their neighbors' halls. Kings exchanged daughters as peace offerings one season and spears the next. Every monastery that rose was matched by a battlefield stained red. Yet, within this chaos, England's heart was beating, not in unison, but in restless, fractured rhythm. And from this rhythm, destiny stirred. For the seven kingdoms were not content to remain seven. Each looked upon the others and saw a mirror of their own hunger. The question was no longer who would survive, but who would rule them all. The web of power and betrayal. Power in the age of the seven kingdoms was a blade without a handle. Every king who grasped it cut himself. The land was a shifting chessboard of alliances and betrayals, marriages and murders, where even prayer was political. To rule meant not only to conquer, but to weave, to tie faith, fear, and kinship into a fragile tapestry that could tear at any moment. Mercia, the beating heart of the Midlands, became the spider at the center of this web. Under King Offa, its power stretched from the Humber to the Channel. Offa was no mere warlord. He was a visionary tyrant. He minted his own coins, forged treaties with Charlemagne, and built the monumental Offa's Dyke, slicing the island into a wall against the Welsh, a symbol of his dominion. Yet, behind the grandeur lurked blood and betrayal. Offa's court shimmered with ceremony, but within its shadows, rivals vanished, and king were quietly disposed of. Power had a cost, and in Mercia, that cost was always paid in silver and bone. To the north, Northumbria burned brighter and fell harder. Its scholars and monks gave Europe its light. Bede, Alcuin, and the schools of Lindisfarne and Jarrow turned a wild kingdom into a cradle of knowledge. Yet piety could not save it. Assassinations became the currency of succession. Kings reigned by the sword and perished by the dagger. One winter, a ruler was slain at his own feast, the mead not yet finished before his blood soaked the hall. Another was driven from the throne by priests he once protected. The divine and the damned lived side by side, and in Northumbria, no king slept easily. Meanwhile, Kent, once first among equals, had fallen into silence, its glory eroded, swallowed by stronger realms. East Anglia rose briefly under Radwald, who tried to play peacemaker his grave at Sutton Hoo. Still whispers of a king who sought both pagan splendor and Christian hope. But even his legacy could not hold the tides. One by one, the smaller thrones bent or broke under the weight of ambition. Wessex watched, patient and deliberate. Its kings understood something the others did not, that survival was a kind of conquest. Instead of overreaching, they fortified, educated, and united from within. The lineage of Cerdic grew cautious, and that caution would one day become wisdom. For while Mercia and Northumbria bled themselves dry, Wessex waited for the storm that would sweep them all away. Yet before that storm, the island reached a strange moment of brilliance, learning and faith flowering amidst the violence. Monks illuminated gospels with gold leaf, while armies clashed outside their walls. Scribes preserved the wisdom of Greece and Rome in fragile parchment, as though they sensed that the light would soon dim again. It was as if England itself held its breath, suspended between glory and ruin. And then the sea began to speak, first as whispers, then as thunder. Ships unlike any seen before glided through the mists, carved dragons on their prows, sails filled with northern wind. The kings who had once feared only each other now turned their eyes to the horizon. The storm had come. The coming of the storm, Vikings and the fall of the old order. It began not with an army, but a whisper, the sea carrying tales of northern devils, men who came from beyond the edge of the known world. They called them the Danes, the Norse, the heathen men. At first, they came in small bands, striking monasteries like lightning in the night. In 793 AD, they fell upon Lindisfarne, the holy island where saints had written the word of God. The monks' chants turned to screams, the gospels to ashes. It was not just a raid, it was a shattering. The age of peace was gone, and England's old order was bleeding. The longships multiplied, like wolves drawn by the scent of fear. The Danes struck at Jarrow, Iona, and along the eastern coast. Gold, cattle, slaves, all were taken. But something deeper was at stake, the balance of power. The kings of the seven kingdoms had long been at war with one another. Now, they faced a foe that did not fight for borders or faith, but for sheer hunger. The Northmen brought not only destruction, but a new rhythm of war swift, merciless, unpredictable. Their sails became the nightmares of the age. Northumbria, proud and learned, was the first to crumble. Its kings were cut down, its cities burned. The monasteries that once lit Europe went dark. Mercia fought next, but its might was hollow. The web Alpha had spun unraveled. Alliances broke like twine in a storm. The Danes poured inland, carving England into their own dominion. The Danelaw. Towns like York became Jorvik, and pagan law ruled where the cross once stood. To the Saxon heartlands, it seemed the island itself had been cursed, its seven thrones drowned beneath a tide of fire. And yet, amidst the ruin, one kingdom endured. In the south, Wessex, long underestimated, now stood as the last bastion of English freedom. Its king, Alfred, was young, brilliant, and haunted. He faced defeat after defeat, forced to hide in the marshes, a fugitive in his own land. But in the quiet of those reeds, something ancient stirred the spirit of the island itself. Alfred learned from the enemy, studied their tactics, rebuilt his army. When he struck back, it was not for glory but survival. In 878, at the Battle of Edington, Alfred's outnumbered Saxons faced the great heathen army. Against all odds, the Wessex shield wall held. The victory was not merely military, it was symbolic, a flicker of light against an ocean of darkness. Alfred's triumph forced the Danes to make peace and retreat northward. In the ashes of that victory, he began to dream not just of saving Wessex, but of uniting what was left of the seven. He built schools, strengthened fortresses, and declared that ignorance was as deadly as the sword. The Viking storm had destroyed kingdoms, yes, but it had also forged something new. The fire that consumed Northumbria, Mercia, and Kent burned away their divisions. From the wreckage of seven thrones rose one vision, still fragile, but alive. The storm had not ended England. It had tempered it. The longships still prowled the coasts, and peace was never certain. But in the heart of Alfred's Wessex, the idea of England was being born, not merely as a land, but as a destiny. The making of England, from the smoke of battle and the prayers of survivors, a new idea began to take shape, Not 7 thrones, but one kingdom. Not a collection of warlords, but a people united by language, law, and memory. It was Alfred's dream, and though he would not live to see it fulfilled, his vision would outlive him. He saw beyond his age of fire, and fear he saw England, the land of the English, the first to dream of a nation where the sword might serve justice, not ambition. After Alfred, his heirs took up the flame. His son, Edward the Elder, and his formidable daughter, Æthelflaed, the Lady of the Mercians, carried his dream into reality. Æthelflaed ruled with both steel and grace, rebuilding the heart of Mercia and fortifying its towns. She fought beside her brother, not as a shadow of men, but as a queen in all but name. Under their command, the English pushed the Danes back, reclaiming the lands lost to the storm. One by one, the old kingdoms, East Anglia, Northumbria, even parts of Mercia, began to bend toward a single banner. Then came Athelstan, Alfred's grandson, and the first to truly wear the crown of all England. In him, the dream found its form. A scholar, a warrior, and a king of faith, Athelstan united what the centuries had torn apart. He defeated the northern kings at Brunanburh, a battle so fierce that poets called it the day when England was made. Under his reign, coins bore one name, one language spread through the courts, and the law of Wessex became the law of the realm. For the first time in 1,000 years, Britain's heart beat as one. But unity never comes without a shadow. The blood that forged England still lingered beneath its soil. The ghosts of Northumbria, Mercia, and Kent, the fallen kings, the betrayed allies, the slain monks of Lindisfarne, all haunted the newborn realm. England was not a peaceful birth, but a hard-won miracle. Even as Athelstan's banners flew, the north whispered rebellion, and new storms gathered beyond the sea. The age of Vikings would return, and the Normans would one day come, but they would come to a kingdom already shaped, already named. And so, the seven had become one. The island that once bled from its fractures had bound itself together in the crucible of conquest and faith. Out of ruin rose identity, out of war, a nation. The thrones of Kent, Mercia, Northumbria, and Wessex became the roots of something larger, something destined to endure the centuries. And when we walk the green fields of England today, when we trace the outlines of ancient dikes, or hear the echo of Old English in our modern tongue, we still walk upon the bones of those kingdoms buried yet breathing, lost yet alive. Their stories whisper through stone churches and ruined halls, reminding us that unity was never given. It was earned through blood, wisdom, and defiance. Because the past is never truly gone. It waits beneath the surface in our words, our land, our memory waiting to be reborn.